March 31st, 1972. In a small town in northern Italy, an anonymous phone caller alerts local police to an abandoned car. When the car door is opened, the car explodes, killing three police officers. A few days after the attack, another anonymous phone caller blames the attack on an extremist left wing group known as the Red Brigades. In response, the Italian government rounds up and arrests 200 communists. This event is just one incident in a long campaign of violence that occurred throughout Italy from 1968 to 1982. It became known as the Years of Lead. Hundreds were killed and thousands more were injured. The Italian people lived in fear, and with nowhere else to go, they turned to the police, the military, and right wing governments to protect them from the scourge of left wing terrorism. The Red Brigades were blamed for the March 31st, 1972 car bombing. But upon reviewing the evidence, a judge by the name of Felice Casson found that the explosive that was used in the car bomb was C4 plastic explosive, an explosive that was primarily used by NATO forces. It had come from a secret weapons cache that was hidden underneath a cemetery near Verona, Italy, one of hundreds of similar weapons caches located throughout Italy and Europe. These caches contained small arms, ammunition, food, water, medicine, communications equipment, and even 88 millimeter mortars and 57 millimeter field guns, enough firepower for a small army. They would be located in sewers, cemeteries, and graveyards, abandoned houses, and old buildings. A decade after the 1972 bombing occurred, the culprit behind it was finally caught. His name was Vincino Vinciguerra. Far from being a member of the Red Brigades, he was a member of a neo fascist group. During his trial, he freely and proudly admitted that he and fellow right wing extremists were allowed to carry out their attacks and were protected by the Italian government from prosecution. In 1990, Italian Prime Minister Giulio Andreotti confirmed the existence of a secret army in Italy known as Glaido. Moreover, he revealed that the Italian secret army was just one part of a network of other secret armies that existed across Europe during the Cold War. In 1992, the president of France, Francois Mitterrand, was forced to admit the existence of a similar secret army in France. And in 1993, the European Union's parliament condemned the existence and the creation of clandestine operations networks by certain U.S. military personnel throughout Europe during the Cold War. These secret armies were known as stay behind organizations. They were inspired by and modeled off of the resistance fighters of World War II, who were invaluable in defeating the Germans. When the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, a military alliance of Western European countries, was formed in 1949, it began pouring weapons into member countries and began to train soldiers in espionage, intelligence gathering, sabotage, and guerrilla warfare. When the training was completed, they were given free rein in terms of how they would then operate. The secret armies were created so that if the Soviet Union invaded Western Europe and the traditional armies of Europe were defeated, there would still be warriors to continue the fight and make life a living hell for the Soviet invaders and drive them out. However, many historians believe that the secret armies began a strategy of tension and intimidation. No longer would they wait with bated breath for a Soviet invasion that may or may not happen, but instead they would create an environment which would prevent the spread of left wing politics in the first place. According to these historians, they would use false flag terror attacks and undercover agents to provoke left wing groups to instigate their own acts of violence in response. These paramilitary units existed in Italy, Belgium, Switzerland, Germany, the Netherlands, Denmark, Norway, Spain, Portugal, Greece, Turkey, and even in the neutral countries like France, Finland, Austria, and Sweden. In France, the secret army was involved with attempting to assassinate President Charles de Gaulle throughout the 1950s and 1960s because he wanted to give Algeria, a French colony, its own independence. In Turkey, their secret army was involved with three major coups in the 1970s, worked with the Turkish mafia, and tried its hand at drug smuggling. In Germany in the 1970s, right wing extremists and the German secret army were behind a series of nail bomb attacks in Munich, which killed hundreds. And while these secret armies were created, organized, funded, and trained by their respective countries, very few politicians were aware of their existence. The Belgian defense minister found out about Belgium's secret army on the news. The army had deliberately kept him out of the loop due to his left leaning beliefs. But perhaps the most sinister act that was carried out by a secret army occurred in Italy in 1978. Former Italian Prime Minister Aldo Moro, a centrist, proposed bringing in more communists into the Italian parliament. Because of this, he was kidnapped by a unit of Italy's secret army, and a few days later, he was found dead. His official cause of death was listed as a heart attack, but some believe that he was murdered. It should be noted that while many of the secret armies took their orders to the extreme and committed acts of violence and engaged in criminal activities, the secret armies of Finland, Sweden, and Denmark did not. With the collapse of the Soviet Union in the 1990s, all of NATO's secret armies were secretly disbanded. But with concerns of Russian aggression ramping up once again, these secret armies at some point in the near future may emerge from the shadows once more.